dkdynamite, and this is my full Easter egg and boss fight guide for Astra Malorum in Black Ops 7 Zombies. Definitely stay tuned. Don't forget folks, as more quests do get discovered, expect plenty of videos here on the channel and lots of article updates on detonated.com. Don't forget, as new strats do get discovered over the next few weeks, expect plenty of follow-up shorts also going over even faster methods to beating this 4-phase boss fight. Now, as far as a setup does go, I do recommend a couple of different things. First off, when it comes to your Gobblegum pack for the boss fight, gotta say max ammo, insta-kill, and a near-death experience are probably your go-tos, because you don't get any power-ups during the first few phases of the fight, and you also want to use an insta-kill to clear out a lot of the zombies nearby and to do some extra damage against the boss himself. A ton of Gobblegums like Idle Eyes and Power Vacuum don't actually work, nor do score streaks. I'll show you some recommended augments on screen, while the recommended primary is either the Nova line or a high ammo capacity weapon like a light machine gun. Now once you spawn in, the first goal is to turn on the power, which is of course a guided quest over in standard mode. As you open all the doors, it'll eventually lead you to where two components are actually located, which are required to turning on power. One is located in the Luminarium area, and the other is here in the Machina Australis room. Once you have those parts, you can do a small lockdown to activate Pack-a-Punch, in which your next objective is to acquire the wonder weapon known as the LGM-1. So for this UFO shooting wonder weapon, you simply have to collect a couple of different parts and then kill the new elite enemy with 3 different traps. The first part can be acquired by shooting one of the flying saucers whenever you do see Oscar, who typically spawns in right after you turn on the power. The second part is probably one you'll end up grabbing first most of the time, which can only be acquired when using a Pack-a-Punch weapon and shooting the hood of Old Tessie over in spawn. You could then grab that car battery, and you're then going to want to find some wires, which can only be acquired when you shoot a blinking lamppost. There's plenty of lampposts in the exterior areas of this map, so as you navigate your way outside, you'll eventually see a blinking lamppost, shoot it once, and grab that part. But you now want to equip Cryo Freeze on your weapon and shoot any of the purple crystals you see also in the exterior areas until you get these absolute 0 shards. You need 3 of them, but if you fail the step we're about to talk about, you'll then have to find these absolute 0 shards once again by shooting ether crystals outside. What you'll need now is the new elite enemy Oscar, but you're going to need him 3 different times. You're first going to want to take him to this trap here in the Speed Cola room. It's actually the rocket thrusters, which only actually work when you have the absolute 0 shards. Once you activate the countdown, you have about a couple of seconds to bring him right behind the thrusters, which will end up insta-killing him. You'll know you did this right if he instantly dies after you see a yellow explosion. But it's worth pointing out that Oscar cannot have his shield up whenever the trap is about to kill him. The traps of course don't last that long, so you want to make sure that right as the trap is about to fire, you take down his shields by shooting his flying saucers. But the next trap is located by Juggernog, the laser one. Your goal here, once again, once you have the car battery and the wires, is to interact with this trap right when he's in the room, which will begin a small lockdown process. Right before the progress bar is about to complete, make sure that he doesn't have any shields up so that he can insta-die once the trap begins to fire at him. But the third and final trap does require a little bit of extra work, but you can actually get this started before you even lure Oscar into this room or before he spawns in. You want to look for 5 different smoking valves that are attached to machinery. You can actually hear them pretty clearly if you get close to them, but there's about 2 of them, I think, on the upper level of this room, there's 2 below you, and there's about, I think, 3 on this middle ground, right, as you can see, and you just want to make sure you shoot all 5 of them in quick succession until you get a quote. You'll now see this telescope begin to move, which is your indicator that you can now bring Oscar into this room, interact with the telescope, and just align it with the sun. Once that's done, a trap will begin to fire. The sun will literally beam down into this room where you can lure Oscar into it, which will instantly kill him. You could have done any of the trap kills I just showed you in any order that you'd liked, and the last one that you did will grant you the LGM-1 Wonder Weapon. But now jumping into the actual main quest, you now want to stay behind Oscar while he's in stealth mode until you hear a specific quote about the 20th victim. If you're playing co-op and he's aggroing you, make sure that one player lures him away and then keeps darting in the other direction while you kind of sneak behind him as he gets out of combat mode and goes back into stealth. If you're on solo, you could just keep using fast travels and just running the opposite way until he eventually exits the combat mode as well. Might have to wait a little while for the quote to activate, but he's going to mention 3 different planets in a specific order. You want to take note of that order and then look at this diagram to see the distance of these planets from the sun. So in my case, I got Earth, Mercury, and Uranus, which corresponds with the numbers 3, 1, and 7. You're then going to input this code on this machine in the Pack-a-Punch room. You can now retrieve a key from the corpse that just got discovered on that lift that just dropped down after you inputted that code. You can then use this key in the Machina room where you can interact with the cryopod, which will reveal another corpse. You can now head into the museum where you'll find a saw just behind this glass case, melee the glass case to pick up the saw, where you can then take it back to that corpse you saw in the iron lung to extract his brain. But once you defeat the Oscar that spawns in, you can then surgically remove the brain, which, by the way, you could have done a little bit sooner if you grabbed the saw earlier in your game and didn't have to run back and forth like I did. You then want to replace the brain located in the Luminarium room where Juggernog is, because there was a brain already sitting there in the jar. You're going to swap it out and perform a little defense lockdown to make sure that no zombies actually attack the brain while it charges up with some energy. Once the progression bar is complete, you can then walk the brain over to where Stamina Up is, and you can place it inside of this new machine, which is here in the library. It'll then display a couple of names of different books, which you want to take note of in the order that you saw them. In my game, it showed us the Black Veil, the Moon Directive, the Unknowable Void, as well as the Witch Light Codex. So what you want to do with these book names is head into this room where you're going to look for these books, which are located on these shelves. There'll be other books that you didn't just see listed over on that computer. Avoid those. The goal here is to count how many of the books from your list are located in each section of this room. That will determine how many times you have to interact with these statues. For example, 2 of the books that I just saw listed are on this side of the room, so that means I have to turn the statue 2 times. There's then 1 book on this side, turn this statue once, and then process of elimination, there's 1 book left in the final corner of the room, so I'll interact with this statue once. It doesn't seem to matter what order you hit the statues in, so long as they correspond with the amount of books that are in that section. Once that's done, climb the ladder and grab Neptune, which is going to be needed for the very next step. You can now place Neptune on the display located at the very top of this Machina room, aka the library. You're now going to want to find 3 different notes, which are in the same locations in every match, but simply have different information on them in every match. So you're going to find 1 note located right here in the library, just there on the table, and in my game it said Mars and Southeast. The next note was actually located in the archive room, just a couple of feet away as well, where we just were doing that statue step, and in my game it said Northwest Neptune. The 3rd and final note will be located on a desk here in the Luminarium by Juggernog, and in our game it said Saturn Northeast. Again, in every match that you play, it'll show a different planet and a different direction. Now what you want to do is stand here in the middle of this room, just underneath what is supposed to be the sun, and you want to shoot the planets that were on your notes to their correct directions. So in my case, I got to shoot Mars just enough so that it hits southeast on my compass. Everybody has a compass at the top of their screen unless they've disabled it in the HUD, so make sure you guys turn that back on. I now have to shoot Saturn to northeast, as the note said, and lastly I have to shoot Neptune, the real blue planet, to northwest. Once that is done, you want to head back into the Pack-a-Punch room, interact with the telescope, and find Mars. It should be in the same location as it was here in my game, but if it's not, keep searching. You do have a good amount of time to actually use the telescope, and once you hover over Mars, you want to take note of these specific coordinates located in the bottom left corner, which is going to be your new code. You want to then bring this code back to the library, input it, which will allow you to do the next step. Again, that code's going to be different in every single game that you play. Now, you could have gotten the coordinates for Mars after finishing the brain step from earlier, but we didn't know that in the game that I was in, so you could have already got that code inputted before you ended up doing the planet step that I just showed you, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. As with most quests, you could do a lot of these steps out of order. But once you interact with this computer by the brain, it'll start a brand new lockdown. And your goal is to just keep shooting the UFO saucers on Oscar and defending the brain on this table from any of the nearby zombies so that the progress bar could complete. After this, a teleporter will open and will take you to Mars. Yes, you heard that correctly. You'll be on Mars, where you can pick up the brain located just here in the center of this arena, and you can place it in the machine at the very top of the stairs. You're going to interact with this to create a portal back into the main map, and once you get back to the main map, you want to buy fireworks for any weapon of your choice. Once that's done, head back into Mars, or maybe you already had fireworks so you could have stayed here the whole time. Interact with this machine, which you can only do once per round, which will activate a sound. A bird will now spawn out of bounds, and your goal is to shoot these 4 pylons in this specific order. Back right, back left, the front right, and then the front left, followed by shooting at the pylon just above the machine in the middle of the arena where you walked in within the temple itself. And if this is done correctly, the bird will then fly to the center of the arena, and your goal is to pick him up while in anti-gravity. If you're not in anti-gravity yet and you're still waiting for it to trigger, keep shooting at that last pylon to attract the bird to stay in this arena, because if you accidentally shoot the bird or you just fail to shoot the top of the pylon, the bird will disappear and you have to wait until the very next round. Once you've grabbed the bird, insert him into this device in the back right of the arena there, as you will see. You now want to head back to the organ located in the Pack-a-Punch room, interact with the screen, and it'll show you 4 different symbols, and it's going to be in a specific order. Keep note of that order, it's very important, because you want to take that order and go back to Mars and correspond those symbols with the different pillars that are located in this arena. There'll be one pillar that has a symbol that you didn't get to see. That's going to be the first pillar you have to shoot, and by shoot I mean shooting the antenna above the pillar with the LGM Wonder Weapon. Again, the symbol that you're going to be looking at on this pillar is right in front of me, as you could see, towards the front of the pillar, in that little square, in that box. The symbol will look roughly similar to the ones you saw on that screen in the Pack-a-Punch room. So I'm going to start by shooting the antenna on top of the pillar that has a symbol that, again, was not on that computer screen in the PAP room. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what symbols in my game corresponded to the specific pillars located in this arena, because they're a little tricky and you'll sort of see the resemblance between the symbols on the pillar with the ones you saw on that screen in the Pack-a-Punch room, but it could be tricky upon your first attempt. So again, shoot the antenna above the pillar featuring a symbol that you didn't see over in the Pack-a-Punch room, then shoot the antennas above the other pillars in the order of the symbols that you saw back in the PAP room. Once that's done, the symbols on all the pillars we just shot at will then turn blue, and your goal here is a bit of trial and error, similar to the gong step from Shangri La. Your goal is to create a bit of a melody by hitting these symbols in the correct order. The thing is, there's no way to actually know the order, so you want to see that when you hit a symbol, it turns blue, and you then have to experiment with what the next symbol is going to be to create that melody in the right order. If you hit the wrong symbol, it'll turn red, and you have to wait until the next round before trying again. Just memorize the order in which you hit these symbols correctly to where they stay solid blue and don't turn red. But you're going to be interacting with all 5 of the pillars, you're just not sure what order that's going to be in the match that you're in. But do keep in mind, when you hit that 5th symbol and it remains blue, it'll spawn you directly into the boss fight, which, hey, also takes place in this arena. But once you're in the Caltheris boss fight, here's how the 4 phases are going to go down. Yes, I'm sure folks are going to optimize this boss over the next few weeks, especially speedrunners, but for now, the first 2 phases are just about the same, where you're just filling up a soul box and charging those devices you see on the sides of the arena so that you can shoot a big laser beam at the giant floating skull which makes up Astra Malorum. Yes, you're literally fighting the round-based map that we were just playing on, I'm not kidding. You've also been seeing the triple laser attack that we've been avoiding, that the giant skull will throw your way. Make sure you guys don't take a silly down and just stay as far away from those lasers as possible. The best way to get these 2 phases done is to just not use your bullet weapons actually, and instead spam your wonder weapon. The LGM-1 has unlimited ammo, and if multiple players on your squad do have it, then even better. The UFOs themselves will get all the souls that you need, and you'll know when a device is charged up all the way. You'll see all of the canisters of energy filled all the way to the top, in which you'll get a prompt at the center of the arena to crack your knuckles and shoot a laser beam right at that floating skull. He'll also shoot a bunch of acid pools at you, and all you have to do is just get some high ground, which is right near the entrance to this arena. Just don't stand near the lower area where you'll take a lot of damage. Now, when you're fighting the boss as a floating skull, it kind of feels like 2 different phases because of the shift in attacks that he could do, and the fact you have to start charging up 2 devices to shoot 2 laser beams at him. It's technically one big phase though, in case you guys get confused. But phase 3 is where things get real. Caltheris will actually become a walking being and will actually come into the arena to fight you, where you really have to be careful with any anti-gravity jumping, because that'll honestly slow you down to where he'll stun you and get you cornered actually, to the point where you can also throw rocks at you, which can almost insta-kill you. This is where insta-kill can come into play just for crowd control and also to do some extra damage against the boss itself. While the wonder weapon could still be useful, I guess some of the flying saucers could still get some damage done on the boss. Of course, useful for any of the Oscars that you face during the main map. You won't see any of those elites during this boss, but during the 3rd and 4th phases, you will see mimics and some pretty fast sprinting zombies. There are going to be some good opportunities for critical shots that you can get on this boss. Once enough damage is done to him, you'll see these very vulnerable blue spots around his rock body that you can go ahead and focus on. Of course, auto-plating is going to be real helpful during this part. I mean, if you bring a shields up into this boss fight, then this will be the phase you want to use it. But I'd also recommend really bringing in a ton of essence, especially because of this phase alone, because if you can't find plates, you can buy them off of the wall for 10,000 points every time. But the max ammo is of course recommended in the case you run out of essence and can't buy any ammo for your level 3 weapon. Bear in mind you can also hide behind pillars when he's about to throw a big rock at you, but you gotta watch out for those Templar zombies, which are also gonna be headed your way. We also noticed that stim shots were absolutely a go-to for our tactical equipment, especially in these later phases where he's going to be doing more attacks towards you, and you're going to be losing health quite often, which is where quick revive also becomes pretty clutch. And phase 4, or what felt like a phase 5 in my mind, is where you want to bring your absolute all. Use everything that you have in your arsenal, but this is probably the phase where most players out there are going to go down, and will honestly take the most practice or studying within videos like this. This is where players could probably lose control and not put enough damage in to finish this off in the final stretch. You have to keep shooting him as much as you can. Don't get distracted by his attacks. Keep avoiding those purple pools of lightning that will keep throwing at you. Watch out for the zombies nearby. Keep spamming that wonder weapon for crowd control, and make sure you're looking for all of his critical weak points. But upon beating the boss fight, you'll get sent to hell in the ending cutscene, and you'll also unlock a brand new operator skin for Nikolai. On top of that, you'll get a brand new calling card, and you'll even get a bonus one if you beat this before directed mode comes out, on top of a charm and some bonus XP. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's Astra Malorum DLC 1 for BO7 Zombies. Be on the lookout for more Easter egg coverage in the coming days.